Hi guys, and welcome to today's MoneyHoney Buzz video. Today I'm going to be talking about managing your money and your personal finances when you are single versus when you are in a couple, whether that is married or long-term relationship, whatever that might be. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the pros of each and some of the pitfalls of each and what you can do to try to mitigate that or take advantage of whatever situation you may find yourself in at this moment. If you have not watched my previous videos, I have a series of MoneyHoney's videos where I basically walk you through a path of how to get from wherever you are now to a place of having a good financial foundation. My MoneyHoney series I will link in the description bar down below, and I will also put a link to it at the end of this video. Don't feel that you have to watch that one first, but if you watch through this and you want more of my content on money management, feel free to watch those videos. They go a little bit more in depth into what basics you should have down in terms of managing your money on a daily basis and also just generally in life. So let's get into today's topic, and I have experience with both. So I was married for a while and I am not married now. So I have been both somebody who has been in a couple and managing money as well as somebody who has been single and managing money. And let's start off talking about when you are in a couple. And let's start with the advantages first. One of the great things that you can do when you are in a long-term partnership with somebody else is that you can decide on your dreams and your future that you want together and really build that picture for yourselves. It also gives you a great opportunity to make sure that you're in alignment for what you want for your future together, which might be a little bit heavy, but you can sort of build that shared vision of what it is that you want for yourselves and the success and life that you want in the future. As part of my MoneyHoney's pathway, I did have a video on sort of building your vision. I will again link that down below in the description bar, but when you build that together, it can be something really powerful. And I talk about using that vision as something that is a motivator for you. And when you are married, you have sort of a built-in support system. So if you feel yourself flagging on something, or you really feel like spending money on something that's not in the budget, you can remind each other of this shared vision. And it's almost like a promise you make to each other that we are both agreeing that what we want for the future and how we want to get there is something that is almost like a promise to each other. So it'll be harder to slide if you are both working towards that vision together. It also gives you a chance of having some extra accountability. So when you sit down, first of all, if there's two of you and you have made an agreement to sit down and have a budget discussion once per month when you're putting your budget together for the next month, you're much more likely to do it. I mean, even like set a date with each other and sit down and do it. And it also makes sure that you don't go totally off the rails in what you're planning for the next month. Like you might sort of say, you know, I want to spend all this money on going on vacation, and the other person can sort of go, whoa, we maybe don't have that in the budget this month, but let's talk about what we can do, or where we can move things around and make some sacrifices in one area to do something that is important for both of us. When you are having a hard day, or even in a moment when maybe you're out and you see something that you want to impulse buy, a clothing item or makeup or an electronic or something like that, you can text your partner and say, I am, I'm having a weak moment. Just tell me not to buy this, or let me just vent to you about what it is that I want. There's that accountability there, but there's also accountability that once you agree on a budget together, if you go out and blow that budget, you're not just disappointing yourself, you are breaking a promise that you made to your spouse. Because when you sit down, sorry, I shouldn't say spouse, partner, whoever that might be, when you sit down and decide together, this is our plan for the next month, implicit in that is that I'm not going to ignore it and go do whatever I want. Like that's what kids do. Adults stay accountable to each other. So, if we have decided this is the amount we're spending on food, this is what we're spending on clothing, this is what we're spending on debt repayment and savings, one of you doesn't get to go and just blow it all on something else, because that's really an issue. And when you have that accountability of knowing that somebody is paying attention, somebody is going to be noticing that that spending happened, you can't just push it under the rug and pretend it's not there. So there is always going to be that accountability when you're doing this with a partner of not just being able to pretend something didn't happen. I have also heard people say, when you listen to different stories and watch different things about couples that have paid off debt together, gotten through getting on the same page with money, do budgets together, all the rest of it, that it makes them stronger as a couple. And there's a few parts of that. You're used to doing things as a team. You're used to setting priorities together. You get in the habit of being very accountable to each other, but also, again, having that shared vision for the future. And when couples do that, it spills over to other parts of their lives. It makes you stronger as a team if you are able to properly budget and manage your money together. As a couple in the day-to-day, you could even share some of the burden. So I'm not sure what you're like, but for me, the reason that I tend to go for restaurant meals or delivery is when I'm tired, I don't feel like cooking, there's just something going on where it's like, I just want to have somebody else take care of that. Well, what you can do when you have a partner is decide, okay, I'm going to make 3 meals this week for dinners. You're going to make 3 dinners this week. And then maybe once a week we agree we're going to like order in pizza or have leftovers or something like that. So you're not looking at doing all of the work yourself. There's shared responsibility for it. And if one of you is having a crappy day, you can say like, can you take care of making dinner tonight? And that person can do that as an act of love and caring for you instead of, picking up the phone and ordering pizza because you don't feel like doing the cooking that night. Now let's talk about some of the cons of managing money when you're in a couple and how you can mitigate some of those issues. The biggest issue to money management when you're in a couple is that you don't have total control over what you're doing. And if you listen to shows or questions or read things about personal finance, some of the number one issues are, I want to do this, I'm on board, but my partner or my spouse keeps spending, they have a shopping issue, or they think it's okay to spend if it's on the kids, or they insist on having, these certain things, or my spouse goes out and buys electronics, or insists on having like a very expensive car, and it's issues because you don't have total control over it. You are sharing a household or sharing responsibility with somebody else. And if that person is not on the same page as you, it can get incredibly frustrating. And it can feel like no matter what you do, it's almost like you're trying to bail out a boat where somebody else is poking holes in the bottom of it. When it comes to relationships, one of the biggest issues in relationships is money. I know so many people who have found out that their spouse was hiding debt or their partner was spending all kinds of money and, they just didn't tell them about it, or hiding purchases, things like that. And, it's a relationship issue more than a money issue. And part of this is going to be, can you stay accountable to each other? Because if you decide you're going to do something and then the person does something completely different, there's going to be a few times where you sit down and talk about, okay, why did you do this? Why is this not sticking to our budget? How is this fair? And let's talk about how we can manage it a little bit. And then at some point it's going to get to a point where it's a relationship issue and you need to think about talking to somebody who can manage the relationship, because rolled up there in money is all kinds of stuff about value and caring about another person. Like if you say we have $200 worth of fun spending money every month and your spouse or partner consistently goes off and spends 150 of that on themselves and doesn't care that they're only leaving you 50, that's a relationship issue. Like it might be a couple of times just kind of not thinking about it, but once you've had some conversations, it's a relationship issue. So those are issues that are too big to get into here. But it is a drawback to having to manage things as a couple. Sometimes trying to manage money can bring all kinds of other issues to light if you don't have a strong and open relationship to start with. Now, one of the second drawbacks of managing money in a couple is a little bit easier to get around, and that is sometimes you can be really good at keeping each other on track, but sometimes as a couple you can be in a situation where it's almost like you talk each other into going off track. So it could be, we both know we should be making food for dinner at home with the groceries that we have, and somebody says, well, like, maybe we could order out tonight. And the other person's like, oh, well, maybe. And it's like, well, it's been a hard day. It's okay if we do it this time, right? And you both agree it's okay between you. And then it's almost like it's not a bad thing because you're kind of goading each other into it. So people sometimes don't like to be the hard ass. And on the flip side, sometimes people like someone else to talk them into doing something that they know they shouldn't be doing. As part of sitting down and doing budgets, you need to sort of discuss with your partner how comfortable you are holding each other accountable. And maybe if you decide you're goading each other into doing something, it's not that one person is always going to be the bad guy who says no, because I know, some relationships, you don't want to always be the person who's killing the fun. But maybe you make an agreement, okay, if we're trying to decide on something that is off budget, like we only have $50 worth of money for restaurants each month, and it's only the 5th of the month that we want to go out and spend all that money now. Like, you can do that. But sit down, agree if you're going to do that you're going to sit down and look at the budget and make sure it makes sense and see where you can fit it in properly. Or if, you don't have any money left in the gas budget, let's say, but you really want to go for a country drive for the day with each other and, you're kind of talking each other into it, say that that's okay as long as you get out the budget and find where you can make it work. So you just have to look at that flip side of accountability of make sure that you are keeping each other on track instead of forgiving each other too much for getting off track. Now, if you are single, managing a household and your money on your own, and here I am managing my household and my budget on my own, there's a number of pros to that. And the biggest one is that you are in total control. It's a flip side of the biggest drawback of being in a couple is you are never going to face that thing of, I'm working hard at saving money, I'm putting stuff into a savings account, and then somebody else is spending it or racking up debt without telling me. That's never going to happen. You are in control. The buck stops with you, and you can make crazy budget decisions if you want to. Like if you are putting your money into savings, if you are saving for retirement, if you are paying off debt, and you want to buy a $300 pair of shoes, and to do that, you want to eat leftovers, frozen food, soup, and toast for a month. Or it's maybe not the best decision, but you can do that because you are in control of it. You can make those decisions, whereas sometimes when you're in a couple, you can't say, you know what, we'll both eat really cheap food all month because I want something. And the other person's going to be like, no, that's not fair. And it's not fair. But as a single person, you can do that. I mean, I tend to be incredibly cheap with clothing. I don't like clothing shopping. It's not my thing. But I do like, going out to restaurants and stuff. So I will put almost nothing into clothing each month, and I spend a little bit more on restaurants. And to somebody else, that would be a crazy decision, but it's my decision and I get to do it because I am totally in control of my budget. Now, here's the flip side and the cons of being single and managing your money. You can often end up spending a lot more money on entertainment and drinks and food and going out and entertaining and all that kind of thing, which I think I said once already, because you are by yourself. So when you are a couple, staying in, watching Netflix and popping up a big bowl of popcorn can feel like sort of a date night, and you get to chat with each other and that sort of thing. When you are on your own, you are much more likely to want to go out, to see friends, to do things, and oftentimes there's an expectation that those things are things that cost money, and you can be much more likely to do that to get over maybe some of like the loneliness or the boredom of being on your own. And you need to understand that and factor it into your budget a little bit more, or you need to come up with strategies. So maybe it's that you have your friends over for potlucks where you're not making any more food than you would make for just yourself. It's just you're sharing it with other people. Or you have sort of rotating nights where you go around, you choose things that don't cost anything. So maybe there's a TV show that you guys like, and once a week you go to somebody's house and watch that TV show together. Or you get together, girly thing, and like paint each other's nails and give each other sort of like, hair blowouts and that kind of thing. Sort of spa stuff, but you do it with the stuff that you have so that it's not costing you anything. But it's a lot harder sometimes for us to say, I want to get together, but I don't want it to cost anything. Something that me and my girlfriends do is we all kind of work near each other, not all of us, but the group that I'm thinking of. And for a while it used to be like, hey, we should get together for lunch. We were going out to places where it was costing each of us like $20 for lunch. And eventually one of us said, like, I'd like to, but like it's expensive. And we're like, well, we'll brown bag it. Basically all we're doing is bringing the food that we would bring to have for lunch anyway, and then going to one person's place and having lunch with them there. Doesn't cost us any more than it usually would, and we get a chance to be social with each other. And the second drawback here is that you don't have anybody to be accountable to. So if you overspend your budget by $200 and you end up putting that on a credit card, or you don't end up putting, the amount that you want to into savings or debt repayment, nobody's going to look at that and say, hey, you didn't stay on track. Like, you are only accountable to yourself. What I would tell you if you are in that situation is to find an accountability partner. Now, sometimes it can be hard to find people in our life to do that with, because talking about money with people you are close to can be a sensitive topic. But there are, people, if you have friends or a relative that you're good with that with, you can say, hey, maybe once a month we can sit down and sort of go over what I did and what I didn't do, and sort of keep accountable to each other. Apart from that, there are things that you can do in terms of finding message boards online, communities online, all sorts of things like that, or listening to podcasts that have to do with personal finance to keep yourself motivated. Because we have the access that we have to like the web and people and all kinds of communities out there, there's a ton of places where you can find message boards and do accountability threads and things like that to keep yourself on track. It just takes a little bit more looking, because you're not sharing a bank account with somebody who knows what you're up to. And again, as a single person, you need to keep that vision in mind about why are you doing this. If you are thinking, oh, I want to go out and, drop $100 on a fun evening, it's not in the budget, but like whatever, I'll just go over budget. Think about, what is that long-term vision that you made for yourself? And is being the money spender in this moment as important as reaching the dream that you want to achieve? So that is today's video. I hope you found it useful and maybe gave you some things to think about. If you enjoyed this, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and I would love to hear any comments that you have about this video. I apologize for not doing one last week. It was a long weekend here in Canada, but I hope you enjoyed this. I respond to every comment that I get in the comments down below, and I love having conversations, so leave me a comment. And if you have not subscribed, my face should be appearing right about here so that you can subscribe to my channel. And if you want to go back and watch the Money Honeys playlist, I will put a link to that right here. Thank you so much. Have a great day.